Today's readings fit together in an unusual way for me. I have the choice to use 1 Samuel, which is the reading you heard, or Deuteronomy 5, chapters 12, or verses 12 through 15. Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy. This Samuel story is one of my favorite stories. Now the boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord under Eli. The word of the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were not widespread. Samuel hears, "Samuel, Samuel." He said, "Here I am," and ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call. Lie down again." So Samuel did. This happened again with the same response. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel a third time. He went again to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Yes, Samuel did hear the call again, and he did respond as Eli had told him to. What I focus on when hearing this is God does speak to his children. He calls us by name. He speaks to us in the quiet, such as when Samuel was on his mat going to sleep. I also felt connected to this story because when Samuel didn't understand, he went to Eli and received direction. But when Eli was also a little slow to respond, it took him 3 times before he perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Well, maybe I'm a little bit like Eli and slow to hear. The direction I really want us to focus on today is better stated in the Deuteronomy reading. Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God, and you shall not do any work, you or your enemies. So let's see how this fits with our gospel reading from Mark. One Sabbath, Jesus and his disciples were going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" This scenario raises questions for me, thinking of my world today. Why are Jesus and his disciples out walking? Are they actually traveling from one place to another? Or are they just out enjoying time together, wandering around enjoying nature? Is it really work to go outside and pick an apple or vegetable to enjoy immediately? I mean, they weren't harvesting the grain, just plucking a few heads of grain to enjoy as they walked. It really wasn't unlawful to pluck the grain. It was against tradition, according to one of the commentaries I looked at. When he was confronted, Jesus responded to the Pharisees with the story of David and when they were hungry and in need of food, and entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which it is not lawful for any but the priest to eat. And he gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, "The Sabbath was made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath." Let's take time to explore the Sabbath if we are going to keep it holy. Judaism has always held the last day of the week, the 7th day, Saturday, as Sabbath, following the Genesis creation story that tells us that after God created animals and Adam and Eve on the 6th day, God rested on the 7th. Christianity's holy day has always been Sunday. That's because every Sunday when we gather to worship, we usually celebrate the Eucharist. Easter happened on the first day of the week, on Sunday, the day after the Jewish Sabbath. So each Sunday, the Lord's Day, we gather to celebrate the first Easter and to come together to pause from life's responsibilities in order to worship and rest and recenter ourselves on God. I probably don't need to tell you that the days of celebrating a whole day of Sabbath, as once a week, are not practiced by most of us anymore. A friend shared a practice with me about gathering in small groups and actually asking the question, "How are you?" with the expectation that we can and will answer honestly. So, how are you?
Fine.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's true, the answer for most of us, but it's the traditional society answer. No one gets to respond to try and fix anything or jump in with another story if you tell. It's truly on your heart. The person asks gets to answer the question without interruption for as long as they need. He said this was really hard to do initially with the adults in the church. They were too busy. There's just too much going on these days. I'm exhausted, was the response he got. Thinking about it, I had to agree. We are too busy. Our lives are so full of commitments and too much responsibility. We live in a busy society. We are constantly bombarded with information, with decisions to make, with people asking us to do something, buy this, go there, get this done, and actually our society rewards us for being competent, productive, and able to accomplish everything to the moon and back in a single day. More powerful than a locomotive, faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, we have bought into the idolatry of productivity. We have been convinced that our value is in what we acquire or what we produce or what we accomplish. The idea of pausing to rest and simply enjoy almost carries guilt that we're not being productive. We're not accomplishing anything. This fits for me, for sure, and was part of the reason it was so hard for me to retire. But I knew I was needed at home and had to be more available to help my father-in-law. So let's look back at our gospel story. Again, Jesus entered the synagogue, and a man was there who had a withered hand. The Pharisees watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at their hardness of heart and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." The man stretched it out, and his hand was restored. In connecting these readings with my thoughts, I have tried to be a good Episcopalian and use scripture, tradition, and reason to better understand today's readings. Just as Samuel in the Old Testament reading, I didn't understand, and it needed to look at some other analogies, such as piety, study, and action. Why is coming to church and being part of a faith community important to me? How does the story in Scripture fit with the time it was written, as well as today in my world? And putting this sermon together to share with you some of the things I have learned. I know I am part of the Pharisee because I can be rigid and not accept change. I get frustrated with those I love when they don't appear to be making the choices I want them to make, or following the rules that I deem to be important. I watch and then I challenge them. But I know in my heart, as well as my mind, that I love the Lord and that He loves me. And I pray that I hear Him when He calls or speaks to me through one of you. While writing this, I have come to realize that even though I did finally retire, I have not yet developed the ability to let go and let God. I believe that just as Jesus told the man to stretch out his hand, God is asking me to do the same thing, to stretch out my hand and let go, to just be, to enjoy, celebrate life, rest, and marvel in God's creation. For some, this might be take a walk in the mountains, spend time with your family, your loved ones, take time to do a hobby and craft, play music. You know what it is that gives you that peace. Look back at the gospel reading from the day. Jesus said to them and to each of us, the Sabbath was made for humankind. It is God's permission, God's commandment even, to stop and rest and live and breathe deeply and to celebrate. Will you now let go and stretch out your hand and be free to be who God